How do I find gratitude from trials, but even deeper, how do I find gratitude in the trial while it's going on? That is next level separation of mind and body and thinking. And it's really hard when you're in the throes of the darkness and the loneliness and the depression and whatever it is we're going through. But the key I find is in that trial and during the trial, where are the blessings? How do I cultivate that type of mindset? And so I started working on that more and more and changed my life.
Well, welcome back to the Sparks of Gratitude podcast. We're excited to have an awesome guest who is a dear friend of mine named Jeff Mask, who I will actually let him introduce himself to you, and you can discover for yourself why he's so awesome. But what I will do to start is explain how the two of us met. And this goes back a little bit to my profession. So many years ago, I switched professions and I decided to become an estate planning attorney. And one of the reasons for that was I wanted to deliver peace of mind to people. Now, at the time, I did not know that's why. I couldn't define that was why. However, there was some feeling driving me to want to become an estate planning attorney. And so I did. Fast forward several years and through law school, and then I ended up beginning to practice. And I was visiting with another advisor with one of my clients, young, but had developed a very successful company, and they were going to have an exit, and he was going to come into quite a bit of money. And something that was new for him and his wife and his family. And they were young with young kids. And during this conversation, he said to me, "Do you have any advice?" And what I think he was fishing for was, what am I going to do with my wealth and my money? And my response was, focus on your family and your relationships and do the little things. Because the closer that you can be with your family and the tighter that you can be with them, you will be able to survive the challenges that come with money, which is an experience that you have never had before. And he was a little bit surprised that that was my response. He thought, whoa, what do I do with my money? How do I be smart with that? What do I invest in? And so on. First of all, I can't tell anybody what to invest in. I don't know anything about that, but I'll tell them how to set up a trust. So I was with a friend named Jared. And after that conversation, he said, "Randy, I think there's someone you got to meet." And he set up a lunch with me and Jeff Mask, who we have here today. And I think it was because of Jeff's shared philosophy with that. So, Jeff, I'd love to have you give a little bit of an introduction to who you are and what it is and this is backwards. I usually don't like to go this direction, but I think it sets the stage for what's meaningful to you, what you do.
Yeah, you bet. Randy, I am stoked to be here. I'm grateful for you. And I'll give a quick background. First and foremost, I'm a husband of 23 years, the most amazing woman on the planet, and father of 4 great kids from 21 to 14. So they're all kind of in the stages now where adulting is happening and teenage, middle school, high school is happening. And it's awesome. Such a fun stage. And I've learned throughout the years that every stage is a great stage and every stage is a hard stage. And finding the good in each stage is key. So that's what really makes me tick and why that matters so much to me. I'll share a little bit later why that's such a focal point of my life. So that's who I am. What I do is I help CEOs confidently grow their business without losing their soul, without losing their priority. Exactly what you're saying. You come into something, either lots of wealth or lots of stress of building a business, and unintended what can happen is just lose focus, and we get stressed and we get consumed and we blink, and 10 years later, all of a sudden our family isn't there, or they are there physically, but they're not there emotionally. It's tough. So why do I do that? Because about 15 years ago, as I was helping grow a particular business, we were bootstrapping it for a while. It was really stressful. My brother was actually the CEO, and he had 6 kids at the time, and it was just so brutal trying to keep it all together. It was, it's running a business is so much harder than you ever think it's going to be. It's great, but boy, does it tax you. And he went and found a CEO coach, came back from his first session. And I remember vividly him walking into the office, me seeing him and noticing a different vibe. I could just tell. And so I approached him and I said, "Hey, where have you been?" I could just see he was lighter. And he said, "I just came back from my first coaching session and it was amazing." And I was like, "I can see it in your face. I'm so happy for you." Because being his brother who loves him, I'm 6 years younger. I had felt the weight of of him a lot. I mean, obviously I couldn't feel it all, but I felt it, and I felt lighter for him. And right then I looked at him and I was like, that's me. That's what I'm going to do. And he looked at me and he goes, you were built for this. Like you were born to do this. And I said, I agree, but I want to do this after I built businesses and after I've been in the trenches. I don't want to coach from theory. I want to coach from real world application.
So what did that feel like? Did you just knew what? So what was that like?
Man. You know, when you have those moments in your life where everything just is instantly clear, calm to the point where that's why I remember where I was standing. I remember where he was standing. I remember exactly where we were in the office, and it just resonated truth. We both knew it.
So I've had experiences
awesome.
which I imagine are like that, where the way I describe it is that I just have a clear understanding of something automatically kind of just implanted in my soul, my heart, and my mind. I just understood something to be right and true.
Yeah, totally. And the truth resonated deep. And interestingly, I was sitting here talking to my boss, the owner of the company, saying, I'm going to do that. So I said, in time, of course I want to help build this. We did.
So as an older brother, did he kind of give you one of those like, yeah, right, you are. Yeah.
Had it been 5 years previous, probably, but by this point of life, we both had been humbled to the dust in several parts of our lives for several reasons, to where we didn't have any of that brotherly weirdness that we had growing up and even earlier in our careers. But it was just right. And I went home and talked to Sherry that day and told her the same thing. And she said the same thing. She's like, oh yeah, I can totally see that. And she said, well, when and how? And I said, I have no idea, but that's going to happen in the future. So the whole time I led people and built teams and businesses, I did it from the background of thinking someday I'm going to be coaching. So I started getting reps and learning and seeing what worked and what didn't, and how to ask really powerful, deep questions to help people really extract the genius and the divinity in them. And I loved it. I loved what I was doing, but it wasn't quite time. And so that's what I do today. I think I'm going to back up a little bit more and say, okay, so that's who I am and what I do. Why did I get to that place? Because when I was married, about, a little bit after we were married, I guess about a year or two, we were pregnant with our first. She was pregnant with our first. And she had a really complicated, painful pregnancy that resulted after about 7.5, 8 months in just total immobility. She couldn't walk. She was in so much pain. And she's tough as nails. She runs marathons. She's way tougher than me. So when she's bedridden, something's off. So I finally, after a few days of her being bedridden, I kept telling her we should probably go to the ER. And she's like, no, they're just going to tell me I'm fine. It's in my head. And they're going to send me home. I said, that's like, yeah, I can see that. But the fact that she couldn't move, I finally literally physically picked her up and walked her to the car and drove her. I'll try and be super short with the story. After a few tests, they finally admitted us. They couldn't find anything for a while. They felt they needed to. They discovered there was a massive blood clot in her left leg from her hip to her ankle. Her whole femoral was clotted all the way down. All the other main areas were clotted. And so that was obviously very bad. They admitted us, put her on major blood thinners for a couple of days. And then all of a sudden, emergency, her water broke. My son's vitals flatlined. And here she is on major blood thinners, now having to go into emergency C-section. Hopefully she doesn't bleed out. It was horrible. They come rushing into the room. They try to prep for surgery. They're literally screaming, saying, no time, go. And so they all leave. And then I'm left alone. And as I'm left alone in that room, it was 1 a.m. It was the darkest night of my life. I felt so alone. I felt so helpless. I felt powerless, and I felt fear. And I remember feeling, I do not want to be a single dad, and I do not want to be a widower. I can't be single again. Like, I found the love of my life. And I just had this depth, this loss that I felt that was just, it was traumatic, to say the least. And I cried, because up until then I was trying to be strong. It's going to be okay. It's great. And then they all leave and I just lose, I just thought, oh. And so they go into surgery. It's super touch and go. My son is born dead. They revive him. Very crazy. He's fine. Then is she going to be okay? She survives it. She's in ICU for a bit. Then doctors check in, and doctor number 1 says, due to the length and the type and the placement of your clots, you're going to die any day. It's very likely. And we said, there's got to be another way.
They were that certain about it.
Yeah. Yep. Then we said, thank you, Dr. Death. We're going to go to another doctor. And Dr. Number 2 was Dr. Death number 2. So the exact same thing. Dr. 3, same thing. And they finally discharged us and said, good luck, and may you enjoy the rest of your life for however short it is. It was horrible. And so for 3 months, that was our life. We would, in my mind, I just considered what would it be like to be single, because every night when we go to bed, I wasn't sure if she'd be awake in the morning. So that is why when I talk about who I am, I'd say I'm a husband of 23 years.
Something you don't take for granted.
Yeah, I get emotional thinking about it and think I'm a dad of 4, and it's the greatest blessing in my life. So that's why it's so valuable, because in my mind, it was taken away. And it was close to be taken away literally, but mentally it was gone. And so it helped me think, okay, if you're awake in the morning, I'm going to honor you and be the best husband and father I can be. And if you're not, I'm going to be the best father I can be and honor your name. And so fast forward, things were okay. And miraculously, she recovered and we had more kids, which in and of itself is another story. And all the doctors said no.
Of course, this is going to be a story that we will go through at some point, because I want the rest of the chapters.
I don't want to bore people, but yeah, it was a big deal. It just helped me see life so much more differently. So that, when normal things in marriage happen and a relationship happens, the lid is left off the toothpaste. Little annoyances back and forth of personalities. Great. If the bathroom was dirty or if this was happening, she's alive. Great. No worries. Like it gave me such a different perspective about life and a deeper appreciation and, dare I say, gratitude for where I was in my life and what I saw very differently.
So I have a question. During that 3-month period when you thought that every day was the last, you described it as you did lose her.
Yeah.
Because you were, how was that? You were convinced on one hand that she was lost, but on the other hand, that convinced that, like hell am I going to let go?
Right.
So what were some of the helpful practices you did to endure that and endure it well?
Yeah. At night, I'd help her breathe, and we would literally breathe together because she was in so much pain. That helped us stay connected. I prayed fervently. I thought of a much more eternal perspective and just thought, if this does happen, I will see her again. And I really embraced my faith, and it became very real. And I'm a big believer in Jesus Christ and loved what he did and who he is. And all of a sudden, resurrection meant something very different to me. And it gave me peace, gave me a lot of perspective and power to just move forward. And then optimism to just say, you know what? And then after 3 months, literally what happened is she sat up one day in bed. She had been bedridden this whole time and said, I'm alive. I'm still alive. And I'm going to choose to live. I remember her saying that. And she said, I'm going to live. I haven't died. I'm going to choose to live. I'm done with this bedridden stuff. And I was super excited and scared.
Were you terrified?
Oh yeah. I was like, oh, don't move the clot, and I was thinking. And she did. She stood up and just said, I'm going to change my boy's diaper. I'm going to be a mom. And it was so deep, her fight to live and her tenacity and her determination to just say, I'm going to be a mom, and super inspiring. It was great. Now you may think, because of that and my gratitude being a husband and father, that I've been a great husband and father. I haven't been. I'm a regular dude who screws up daily and learns the hard way all the time. But I do have an extra level of appreciation and gratitude for life and for my wife and for my kids because of it. And I'm forever grateful. And that's the interesting lesson. How do I find gratitude from trials, but even deeper, how do I find gratitude in the trial while it's going on? That is next level separation of mind and body and thinking. And it's really hard when you're in the throes of the darkness and the loneliness and the depression and whatever it is we're going through. But the key I find is in that trial and during the trial, where are the blessings? How do I cultivate that type of mindset? And so I started working on that more and more and changed my life.
So this was about 22 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And
exactly.
And remind how many kids you have now.
Yeah. So we have 4.
Yeah. And then, so maybe go into, because I'm aware of some, we've had several conversations in the past, but this was a major experience for you. So what were some things that had happened in your life beforehand, which you believe prepared you to endure that?
Great question. This is a bizarre story, but this shaped me.
Best kind.
Yeah, indefinitely. Running to school in third grade with my sister, who's a year older than me, late for school. We're running together on the sidewalk. And of all things, of all places, we trip up feet. And of all places to fall, I fell on this brick wall that's about a foot tall and about 10 inches wide. And I bit the wall. I mean, literally just my nose didn't hit, my forehead, my chin, my teeth, my front teeth just jammed and to the point where I knocked the brick off. It was a massive brick. So later I felt pretty cool. But at the time I had no idea. And so, blood gushing everywhere. Sister runs home to tell my mom. Mom comes down the street and I'm just a bloody mess. They take me to the dentist. The dentist says, hey, go back and try and grab the teeth so we can see if we can put them in while your
teeth are broken out on the curb.
Yeah, just messed up. Couldn't find the teeth. Goes back and says there's no teeth. And the dentist says, huh? And then he excavates a little more, and they're 2 inches up up to my nose, just jammed up. So the result of that is major oral surgery, 95 stitches inside and outside, really, really bad. And what happened was it swelled so big, like I looked like a monkey. I had big old Coke bottle glasses on. I mean, just not my best life at the time. Right? And what occurred after that is I felt super detached from society and I got made fun of for it. And I just kind of sunk behind in the shadows. And I just felt alone. I felt super self-conscious. I was very embarrassed all the time. And, the swelling obviously went down, but I still was just kind of mangled. And I remember I don't know how long my third grade mind can't really remember a time. I want to say 3 to 6 months-ish, where I just kind of felt alone until one day I didn't really feel happiness. Actually, I didn't feel happiness at all. I was with my sister and her then boyfriend. I'm the youngest of 6, and so my sister was a little older. And something happened where they were kind of frustrated about something, I can't remember. And I did something intentionally to get them to laugh. And it shifted the energy of the room, and they had a good belly laugh. And I felt this, again, same moment, like, when I knew I was going to be a coach, I felt this, something hit my heart. And I was like, oh, and I felt happiness. And I remember asking myself, why did I feel happy? And I thought, I helped them be happy.
And you were aware enough as a third grader to introspection to ask that question.
Again, I remember the room. I remember where I was. I remember it was someone else's house, and I still remember where we were on the second floor. And I thought, I like that. I want to help people be happy. And so from third grade on, I made a goal to just try and help others find happiness. In so doing, I felt joy, and I was like, this is great. Now, I wasn't perfect. Dad, I was 9 or 10, right? But from that early age, and now that I've studied neuroscience and neuroplasticity and all the things, how malleable your brain is at that age, now I understand why that was so powerful at that age, because I learned the power of our thinking. I learned that when you intentionally feed your mind with positivity, with gratitude, with selfless service to others to help them find joy and happiness, you can really program your brain. And I did. And so middle school, high school, I was everyone, oh, you're so happy. I wish I were so happy like you. And I just kind of go, And I didn't really think about it. Well, then fast forwarding the adult years, I had a lot of people say, well, you're just so happy. I'm not built like that. And then finally I was like, well, would you like to be? And so I created a model that helps people's thinking to rewire your brain and create new pathways in your brain if you so choose and if you want to do the work. And I love it. So that was huge, because then fast forward to now the question you asked, when really traumatic, difficult things happened, I had learned different ways of thinking and processing that helped me cope and helped me find peace and joy amidst the trial. Unbeknownst to me, my dad had been studying for years all sorts of books on mindset, on programming, and he had been feeding me these things just in conversation. I had no idea. And, he hoped it would sink into his kids' minds. Well, it sure did for me.
Some type of osmosis,
Oh,
so that
totally.
was the next question I wanted to ask, is so much of this has sounded like, well, you've just been introspective and maybe naturally so to address that. But what did people around you contribute? So maybe talk a little bit about your dad or others that might have helped.
Yeah. So I didn't know this at the time. That's what's so interesting about the story. I didn't know that he had spent years studying about human psychology and about the power of positive thinking and how to program your brain in a way that sees the joy and sees the good and then brings the good and the joy in everyone else. Why did he do it? Because he was teaching seminary, a religious seminary, to 14-year-olds for 30 years. So if you're going to be doing that, you need to find the joy, right? You need to see this in a way and see the good in people and bring the good out. And he was a master at it. He taught me in my 9th grade year, and he's a legend. He's so good at it. So that was all going on unbeknownst to me. Fast forward 35 years, and I'm helping them move out of their home. This was 3 or 4 years ago. And as I'm helping them move out, I'm coming across his bookshelves that I had never seen before. Old school books from the 30s, from the 40s, from the 50s, good stuff, really good stuff. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, Dad, and now that this is what I was doing, I had this epiphany, and I was like, none of this was because of me. And I get weepy. I got weepy. I was like, I thought, Dad, because of you and because of Mom, I am who I am. And you always know that, but I deeply knew it. And my gratitude for him, because I got to do what I love to do, but it was because he trained me and he taught me. And he said, yeah, you do what I do. You just make a lot more than the seminary teacher did. But it was full circle. And I read his notes in the books and little note cards that he had and things that he would say to himself and all the stuff that most society laughs at. Oh, these affirmations. Oh man, I would never be caught dead doing that. He did it. He learned it. He saw the good in himself and he would speak it out loud and lived powerfully because of it and totally changed my life. So I had no idea as a kid that was what was happening. But now as an adult, as I look back and see what he did and then see the books that he was reading and then the notes inside, I was like mind blown.
Right.
It was such a moment.
That it wasn't by accident. Somebody was there blowing some wind in your sails all along.
Really good wind.
Yeah. Well, your dad is awesome. So something I've been so impressed by you is this conviction in these principles. I mean, it's just, I'm the guy that met you the first time and I'm like, he's so happy, right? You know, so I was one of them. And I'm like, this is the type of person I want to be around, right? And I feel like in recent years, I've felt like, you know, I have a lot of acquaintances, I have a lot of friends. I want to be near and spend time with those who want to be all in. You know?
Yeah, totally.
Those that I can cry with. Trust me, it's a miracle that I haven't cried with you right now. I have. I just like put a fake video of me on there.
I'm interviewing. I gotta be strong.
No one's ever accused me of being strong. I cry 5 times a day. So, and that's just regular. That's not even if anything happens. So, why I find this so meaningful, and coming back to my introduction to you is, where the whole circle came around for us to meet, is now you've taken all that experience from your personal experience. People have taught you, your father and so on, the experiences with your wife, and others that you've shared with me about yourself. And now you get to coach people who some might call a big deal. Well, you're not teaching them how to make the most money. What are you teaching them?
Yeah, great question. Rather than teach, what I do is do my best to ask questions that will extract truth that's in them. But sometimes we don't know it's there until we verbalize it. And when they use the words, they go, so for example, I'm bent on building this business and having the exit, the liquidity event, the IPO, whatever it is that I want to do. And often it becomes so consuming, all consuming, that little by little we deprioritize what matters most. And often most founders and CEOs do this on behalf of and for the benefit of their families, only to lose them in the process. And so there's kind of an either or mindset that I find happens. And it's not ever really verbalized. It's just kind of a deep subconscious belief that people have. And it's either I'm going to be all in on my business And it'll just be for these 5 or 10 years. And then I'll come back and really be present for my family because I'm doing it for them anyway.
And it's easy
but I
to
can't
justify that sacrifice for this short period of time.
Because it's for them.
Right.
Right. It's a very logical lie, but it's an easy, very seductive lie, but it is a lie. And so I will be all in on my business and my family's going to kind of suffer for a bit, but they'll thank me later. Or the other extreme is, nothing is more important than my family, and I'm not going to grow a business that will pull me away from my family. But to the point where people limit their ability of what they can do in business, mostly because they're worried that it's going to pull them away. And so they run away from high growth or a high net worth or whatever it may be. And what I help them do is find the as Jim Collins would say, the genius of the and instead of the tyranny of the or. How do you grow a great business and be an amazing spouse and parent? And help them realize it can happen. It's not an either or. And many, when they realize it and they speak it, they go, if I'm really honest with myself, I don't think I can do both. And I break that limiting belief with them and say, let's create something different. So that's really the core of it. And so what else I do is I just really help straighten minds, and I help shift thinking, and I help people see that the story that they're telling themselves is really very logical and very, it might feel good, but it may not be totally accurate, and help challenge them. And yes, I'm happy, and yes, I love people. And because I love people, I go hard. I push hard, and I do not take BS. And a lot of people will take excuses and yeah, okay, because I care about you, I'm listening. And I say, no, because I care about you, what you're telling me right now is a pack of lies, and and I know. So let's start over.
So you keep them accountable, and
oh boy, I keep it real.
So talk to me about that, because have you read Radical Candor? One of the principles I love in that book, it's like you say it like it is, and it may be really uncomfortable, but you've developed such a relationship with each other that you are free to say it like it is, even when it hurts. And it's because you love them.
Yes. And they know it.
Yeah.
Right. Often, I love Radical Candor. What I don't like about it is when people use it as an excuse to be blunt, and they haven't built the relationship and the reciprocal care. So the person knows, you've earned the right. You don't, but people sometimes like to rip into others because that's what Radical Candor is. And it's like, you're missing part of the point. And so, yes, there has to be a depth of relationship and care where the individual that I'm coaching or that anyone's leading, they have to know it. It's not enough for us to say, I'm doing this because I love you. Sound familiar, parents? If our kids, if our teams, if our clients don't know that we genuinely love them, then it doesn't really matter what we say. They've got to know it and feel it. And when they feel it, you can go there. You earn the right. And you have to have enough emotional intelligence to know when that has happened. And your ability to quote unquote read the room is critical. That development of self-awareness and emotional intelligence in this process is paramount.
So question, maybe you could share, my guess is that you might be working with the CEO whose spouse or family are extremely grateful for you because they might have got their spouse back.
Yes.
Right? I mean, do you have any stories there?
It's one of the favorite parts of my job. I love it. It's why I don't feel like I'm working. I'm doing work that's so meaningful. So 2 quick stories. One wonderful client in the UK had been with his partner for over a decade. They had 2 kids together. They were living under the same roof for over a decade, but they were engaged and have been for years, 9 years. So I was coaching and working with them on his business, and things were going well, but I kept having this like, there's something, got to go a little deeper. And he was pretty guarded till finally I just said, what's up? Why haven't you committed fully? Oh, well, we're together. Okay. But why haven't you fully committed? Well, she doesn't really care. Okay. Got it. Would you be open if you and she and I had an offsite coaching session to just wrestle with this question? And he's like, sure. And I asked her for her permission. He just comes back and says, oh, she's in. I said, I figured she would.
I might guess where this is going.
Right. So we had 8 hours in central London in a WeWork building that I was actually just there last week. And I sent a video of it and texted it to him and said, remember this place? The one question that we wrestled with was, why have you been together for 12 years and are still not married? And boy, it got deep. And I'm not a marriage counselor. I'm not a therapist. I was very clear saying it's not what I am and who I am and what I do. but we unpacked insecurities and fears and things that had just been going on that they didn't realize the other had. But having a facilitator there helped kind of bring out some of that. And it got painful and tearful and difficult. But at the end of that, they had this amazing breakthrough together. And they looked at each other and said, we deeply love each other. Why aren't we married? And he looked at her and he looked at me and he said, June 29th of next year, we're getting married. And she's like, they had kind of talked a little bit throughout that day of, and so he said, that's the date. And he said, will you be here? Will you come back to London? I was like, 100%. And came back. It was a beautiful, so this was December of 2018. And then in June of 2019, they were married. And now our relationship is so different. We have a different love and respect. He said a month after they got married, he said, she's never been happier. And he said, I had no idea that taking my last name meant that much to her, and neither did she, to be fair. But she feels so much more confident and secure in our relationship because the commitment is so much deeper. And I was like, Eureka, that's it. Just amazing. And so now, when I see their kids, when I see her, like, we can't not hug. It's just there's just too much love. We mean so much to each other for what occurred there. So love that story. The other story is another client. And I tell my clients, we have lots of KPIs and lots of measurements and lots of where you want to measure success. All those will be great. The North Star metric for me, just so you're aware, that I will create with you is at the end of our first year of coaching together, does your spouse say that you are a better spouse? That's the North Star. It's very qualitative. And it'll be maybe based on their mood the day they answer. But we'll do our best to say overall, in general, are they better today than they were a year ago? So I'm at dinner with a new client. I say this to his wife, and she's got her eyes get big, and she's like, and he is kind of like, oh, I don't know you're going to say it to her too. No, they're just me and you, right? Shoot, now I really got to do something about it, right? And she thought, and I said, I know it's a little bit odd, a little bit awkward. You don't really know me. Just know that's really important to me and how I measure success and how I coach. And I say, why do I do that? Because I'm a business coach. I'm not a life coach. Why am I focusing on your marriage? And I tell them, when your marriage is on a solid foundation with love, with peace, with great communication, with selflessness, guess what magically happens? Your business flourishes. It's just so much easier to innovate and to lead and to create. You don't have the emotional stress and baggage from having a home life that's really, really tumultuous. And so she understood, okay, that makes sense. And so a year later, we meet. And he's renewing, and he's like, of course we're coaching another year. Let's keep going. I love this. And I said, great, we need to talk to your wife. And I said, okay, so here's the question. This time was a different restaurant. And I said, here we are. Can't believe it's been a year. And I said, is so-and-so a better husband for you from a year before? And she got teary-eyed and couldn't talk for a little bit. And she said, more so than I could have ever imagined. I'm so grateful. He's even a better dad. He's more connected. He's more present. He puts his phone down. He's just different. And I looked at him and he looked at me and we're like, yeah. It was definitely, fist bump moment for sure. And that client is going on 5 years coaching together with me, right? And they continue to scale their business. And he's like, this is great. So those are payday moments for me. I love them. I love that they can grow their business and grow their families' relationships simultaneously. It's not one or the other.
I love it, Jeff. And to me, it seems so obvious that that's what you would provide for people. Well, and really, they're providing it for themselves. You're providing them the opportunity for it.
Yeah, I'm just waking them up to the fact.
So this has been amazing. And I have one more question for you before we finish this up. Is there anything specifically that you are working on intentionally right now for personal improvement?
Yes. I consistently consume books and podcasts and articles daily. I think daily learning is critical. I believe leaders are learners and learners are leaders often, not always, but it's a huge leading indicator. And so what I'm doing currently is I'm working through with one of my sons, how do I make sure that when his energy goes to this place, that I don't subconsciously match it to create a battle? How do I just let peace and love prevail in that moment versus going into my normal habit, because we're so similar. And, he digs his heels in so deeply, and he's iron will. And I love that about him, except for when I'm trying to have him do something.
Except for when you want to be that way too.
Right. And I've realized what an awesome lesson for me to look in the mirror and go, how am I creating this outcome in him? It's all me. It's the energy that I come out. He knows what's happening, and it's very subconscious in both of us. So that's a little pet project I'm working on right now myself, to just make sure. And one of the ways that I am working through it is we create we call it Wednesday lunch, where it's their early release day. And on Wednesdays we go to lunch, and it's just time to
this
just
is your high school
together
son.
Talk. Yeah. And I've learned with high schoolers, food, especially boys, food is the medium for anything. Get food and just have a chat conversation, because it's much less, it's less formal, it's more conversational. And so that's been helping a lot. I love it. We just had it today, and it was awesome. We had a really good conversation, and he listened and I listened, and it was great. So I'm working on that, and thankfully making progress, but I've got a ways to go.
Yeah, well, I love it, Jeff, and it's inspiring to me. I always want to see people who are trying to be better than they were yesterday, and I see that in you. And we've got some more adventures to talk about, by the way, because Jeff and I, we have some stories. Number one, Jeff's one of the few people that I know that are the adult Disneyland lover. It may be on equal level there, kind of the embarrassing level of loving Disneyland.
Totally.
And in fact, we ran into each other there once, which I'm embarrassed that it was only once, so that's happening again soon, as well as we've had some adventures, some wonderful adventures, eating tacos and other wonderful experiences in Mexico together, and many more to come. So
the best.
But from here, Jeff, I love you. I love the stories you've been gracious enough to share, and they inspire me, and I am grateful for you.
Thank you.
So
You're the man.
Can we please do this again?
Love you, brother. For sure. I'm happy to do so. And hopefully people that are listening received benefit and were able to see themselves in some of the stories, to see how we can all be a little better. We can all improve. I like you said, daily incremental growth. That's all it is. We're all going to screw up. Just get back on path as fast as we can. So thank you for making this happen, Randy. You're the man. I really appreciate you. I'm excited to see where you take this.
Awesome, everybody. Thank you. You are awesome. Stay awesome and stay grateful. Take care.